Okay, so it's been quite a while since I did one of these, but these are pretty much the most popular videos on my YouTube is these system teardowns, how-to type videos, that kind of stuff. So I decided it was time to start doing them again. So I saw this on Craigslist, Facebook Market. I think it's Facebook Market. They're all the same, whatever. But I saw this the other day, and I got a really good deal on it, and I wasn't going to do a video or anything on it, but then when I opened it up, I noticed it's incredibly modular, and there's a ton of stuff you can do with it, at least compared to modern systems. So we are going to do a teardown. I've got a few parts over to the side here, so I can kind of show you guys what some of the upgrade potentials are. I am going to be focusing on physical teardown, fitment of parts, recommendations, stuff like that. When I tried to look at the official Dell documentation, I was not able to see, at least quickly, when I tried to look on my phone a minute ago, when I looked at the service manual, stuff like that, maximum RAM, things like that didn't jump out at me. It appeared they were just listing the maximum that they originally sold it with. So that's not necessarily indicative of what the maximum potentials are. So I'll give my recommendations on what I would suggest, but I'm not going to be able to go super in-depth if in comments I get questions, how much RAM can I put in it? That kind of stuff. You'll have to do your own research on that. That's not really what this is focusing on. This is kind of the harder stuff where you need someone to show you how to take it apart, that kind of thing. So to get started, let's see here. So this one, kind of Dell, typical Dell. I believe this one's is it a pullback? Let's see here. Let me see. Okay, yeah. So it's got a little. Can't really see it, but it's got a grip here. If you grip it and pull, it opens. So kind of an interesting side panel design there. It lets blue light through. I guess that's gamery. I'm guessing there's probably a comparable Alienware version to this, but I didn't do cross-reference on that, so I can't specify what. Okay, so let's actually try and decide if I want to move the camera. Let's move the camera. So let's do this. So we'll look right down inside there. Should be some better quality video than I did on these in the past. So, what we have going on here, and I probably should grab a screwdriver, because we are going to pull some of this stuff out. So, it's pretty standard layout. You got your Dell OEM. Let's see if I get any closer here. Clear as I can. I can't stand these videos when you can't see anything, so let's see if we can do better. Okay, so you've got your standard Dell issue heatsink. Pull that off. Well, no, we'll go over parts. So we got standard Dell issue heatsink. This particular unit came with a Radeon RX 580 8 GB card. Looks like we've got two M.2. Oh, actually, okay, it looks like, oh, no, there. Oh, yeah, okay, so that's what I thought I saw on the specs. So one of them is a SATA M.2, which commonly when you order them, they will be listed as SATA M2 rather than NVMe or SATA M. Or it'll say SATA M2. It won't be M.2. And that's basically a SATA port in the form of a M.2 connector, more or less. And then you have this one, which is your NVMe. I honestly don't know why they aren't just both NVMe capable M.2s, but whatever. Looks like they've got, that's kind of crazy. 1, 2, 3? 3? Oh, that's what that is. Okay. So it looks like they have... That is so dumb. So it looks like what they did here is they did a... So you've got 3 front panel USB 3 connectors, but it looks like one of them is actually wired to the ports as USB 2, because they have USB 2, they have two USB 2, two USB 3, and then they have a USB Type C, which I'm guessing is configured as just standard USB 3 speeds because it's connected to a standard front panel USB 3. Oh no, I guess it does have. Okay, it does have a USB 2, so I'm a little confused as to what they're. Maybe they. Oh, I bet I know what that is. I bet the second USB 3 front panel plug is for this SD card reader. I bet they're running it as a USB 3 card reader. So yeah, so your basic stuff. Looks like we have. So you can't see it. Let's see if I can make this easy. So you've got a 16, an X16. I'm guessing. Well, it looks like it's actually wired as X16. So you've got a second X16 PCIe, and you've got a single X1 directly below the video card. Then you've got a. Looks like they actually have this. This is a video card support bracket. That's something we're definitely going to remove. You've actually got quite a bit of space for video card in here. It's got 2 RAM slots. And as I said, I couldn't get good info, so I'm going... The Dell lists that it shipped with up to 32 gigs, so I'm not going to say that it can take more than 32 gigs. Honestly, putting more than 32 gigs in the system would be a waste. It ships with a single 16, at least this configuration. For the way that you're going to use this, no one's going to configure this thing as a bleeding edge system. So I would actually, as much as people say, oh, you need to run dual channel, blah, blah, blah. If you've already got the single 16 and you're running something like this type card, I would just leave it. I honestly would not put money into upgrading the RAM because, again, you're not building a bleeding edge system here. It's not what this is. You can do it. There's nothing against it. It's not going to hurt anything. It's probably going to make it a little bit faster. But I don't think it's worth putting the money into. So I probably should have done it first, but let's also take a quick look at the external ports. So as I stated, you've got a SD card reader, just a standard SD card, so you have to have a little adapter to do mini. You've got 2 USB 2.0 blacks. You've got 2 USB 3.0 blues, and then you've got this this USB-C front panel. Kind of confused why something as new as this that has USB-C also has surprised it has USB 2. That seems a little odd, but whatever. Same thing with the SATA M2 port. I'm kind of surprised they have that there, considering that this is new enough to have a USB-C front panel mounted port. Oh, I guess I can twist like that. We can get a little more view. Okay, and then you've also got. I received this with only one. Pull this out. I received this with only one of the hard drive brackets in place, so it's got 2 slots. And if you're any creative, you can. There's always ways to do this. You can put another hard drive there and then zip tie it in or whatever. There's always creative ways to do it. Hard drives can be mounted in any orientation. There's no specific that it has to be. So, and then actually it's also got kind of interesting. This I didn't even realize it when I first got it, but this is a 2.5 hard drive or SSD mount, which is where I'm going to put the 500 gig Samsung 860 EVO that I've got in. What else do we got going on of note? It does have up at the top, it's got a laptop form factor. If I can make it visible, I don't know if it needs to be visible. It's got a laptop form factor. Oh, there we go. Okay. SATA mini optical drive. I doubt many people are using that in 2023, but it's there if you need it. I honestly haven't a clue if it's Blu-ray. I'm gonna guess it's just a basic optical drive. I'm seeing less and less of the machines with Blu-rays. So we have. Let's see if I can make these visible. Let's pull these cables out. So we have 5. No, it looks like 5. 5 board-mounted SATA ports. You can see them right there. Kind of nestled in here. Probably the 6th port, I'm going to guess, is that SATA M2. So instead of having a 6th standard SATA port, they put in that SATA M2, which I think is really stupid. I think an additional SATA port would have probably been more useful, because I think you actually have to order SATA M2s. I don't think they'll work. I don't think they're backwards compatible with NVMe. I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure they're not, because I think I've tried that before. Okay, so let's first... Oh, and power supply. So yeah, honestly, I'll go over that a bit more in a bit, but it is a standard form factor power supply, so you can replace it, which I'm going to show you guys in a bit. So it looks like we've got, looks like the connectors on this, and this unit shipped with a 460. Dell specifies up to an 850, but this particular unit is a 460 with a 6. Is it 2? No, it's got 1 6 and 1 6 plus 2 for an 8. So it'd be fine for most mid-level cards. It's actually probably slightly overkill for this card, believe it or not. Okay, so let's pull first this. I'm going to absolutely recommend taking this out. This is a... Actually, I'm going to guess what this is really for is for security during shipping. Because it's not designed... The way they have it set up, it's not set up for... See that? It's only set up for slim cards like this. So it's not like you're going to get... It's not like you're going to get a heavy card. And any card that's heavy, you're not going to put in this anyway. You're not going to put a... You can't put a 3080 in it. Please don't. Just... It's a waste of your money. Dell only specifies this up to a Ryzen 7 1700 from what I could find. And without actually testing the chips, I don't know for sure. It is quite possible it is whitelisted, so there's a specific list of chips it'll take. It's possible you drop a faster chip in, but without doing it, I don't know. So I'm going to say assume your max chip is the Ryzen 7 1700, which is what this came with. So after that comes out, it's just a totally standard video card mount. Just a couple of small screws, and then you just do your normal. You've got a clip on the back of the card. It's very easily accessible with the way this card is set up. Just lift your card out, and as stated, this one has a... I believe this is whatever you'd call Founders Edition, or whatever the AMD equivalent is to just the standard OEM Radeon 580. I'm not a huge fan of blower cards, but it's a low enough card that it's probably fine, to be honest. Okay, what else do we have here? So, let's pull this out. I didn't have another one on hand, but as far as I can tell, it appears to be a standard set of... Dang it. It's going to focus. You're going to focus. Come on. Sorry about the blur there. That camera didn't focus in quite right. So it appears to have a standard set of AMD mounting brackets. So I believe you can use any, like the Wraith coolers or whatever. I believe those will clip on. I'd have to have one present again. I don't, but I believe any generic AMD cooler will clip onto that. So I'm going to get these a little bit out of the way. Okay, so let's take a look at power supply first. So it looks like you've got... So first, let's look at the back. So it is 100% standard. It is a standard set of power supply mounting. Okay, so then the way they actually have this set up is kind of cool. They've got a little, so your connector, I'm guessing this is because they probably repurposed this from a lower end machine that didn't need as long of cables, but they've got this, show it in the, they've got this little extender here, so they've got the power supply going to this extender plug, and you can just unplug from that. And then you've got more clips here. Let's pull more of these cables out. So, same thing. Oh, that's interesting. They even did that. Huh. I wonder why they did that. So they've got a SATA extender. I don't know why they did that, because it looks like it's got plenty of plugs to make this work. I definitely have no idea why they did that. It doesn't make any sense they felt the need to do that, but okay. And then it looks like this one is probably, yeah, that's our... Okay, so it's set up. Ah, okay. So that, I think, is for the optical drive. Don't know why they put this on here, because again, it's actually got the connectors proper for the optical drive, so it doesn't make sense again, but whatever. Okay. So, and then it's got the same thing for your motherboard, EPS 12 volt 4-pin. Same thing, it's got a little extender here. Again, I'm going to guess that the way they set this up, they didn't really want to use a different power supply, so they use a bunch of extenders. Oh, that's crazy cool. Look at that. I didn't realize that. So this is unusual. So, oh, you can just barely see that. So this is a short power supply, but it's also got this for if you're running a longer power supply. Usually you just have this, and then if you end up needing to put a longer one in, you just cover it up and screw it in, and it's not that big of a deal, but that's actually pretty cool. Okay, so next we have, let's get our cables and stuff out of the way. So, single stick of 16 gig RAM. Let's see, can I make, do we even need that? What is that even for? I am at a loss as to what this is for. So I'm going to take it out. So at least, oh, I know. That's the blue. If you see this and it has blue light on, that's a blue, rather shoddily constructed blue LED strip. Gives it that gamery vibe, because I mean, look, RGB is great, but I mean, single color LED still adds, I don't know, 15 FPS, right? So, you know. Okay, so then you've got the connector for this fan. And you've got, I don't actually know what this is. Digital, oh, just front audio. That's a little bit big for front audio. Connector, so I'm not sure why that's that big. It's a lot more ports than the standard OEM one, or whatever you call it, non-OEM one, like just what you get on normal board, but whatever. And then your 8-pin is up there, or 4-pin in this case is right here. You've got, what do we have? USB 2.0, green, and it looks like, yeah, that one's green. Be very careful when you pull the USB 3s if you're not planning on disposing of the board. So it looks like they are color-coded on all of them, so that'll make life a little easier when I go to put it back together. This one's blue. And then this one is black. And you want to just pull them straight up. They don't have clips on them, so you just want to pull them straight up and out. Okay, so then we pull our little extender. And we have, who knows what this is? What is that listed as? Oh, more lights. And, oh, I didn't mention, this does have a wireless card. So that's your wireless card in the corner there. Let's get that out of the way. So, wireless card right here. Oops, still covered. There we go. Now you can see. Wireless card. There we go. Right next to the M.2. And that one is the NVMe wired one. I'm going to guess this is power. My experience with these Dells is that sometimes, even if you wire something directly to whichever two wires you determine to be the power, sometimes it will give you error messages saying that it's not the right part. Sometimes it will do that. It's really dumb that they do that, but sometimes they do. I don't know without actually trying to do it, but. Pull. Well, that's kind of cool. It's got a little plastic cover covering the Wi-Fi antennas. So we're gonna want to pull. If I can, I don't know if this is small enough. It might not be small enough. Actually, I'll just do this for now. I can still. Oh no, I guess I can't. Those are tight in. That's actually kind of cool because usually those come off really easily. We are gonna have to grab a smaller Phillips head for that. I didn't expect to need a smaller one. Okay, let's see if this one will work. It's gonna work. Yep, that worked. And that's actually the screw holding on is also holding the card to the board. These aren't usually very fragile, so I'm just going to kind of put that off to the side so I don't have to rerun. These Wi-Fi connectors on these cards are actually pretty fragile. They're these newer. They went to this micro style like 10 years back, and they're a pretty fine connector, so I'm more worried about damaging those than I am the card itself. Okay, so this is. It appears, we're going to know in just a second, but this appears to be a standard, for the most part, a standard mount board. Now, I wouldn't recommend transferring this if you decide you want to build a custom system and you want to keep, and there's no reason to keep this board. Boards for this chip are so cheap. Just go on eBay and order a board for I'm going to guess that the lowest end Asus Gigabyte MSI is probably a better board than this. Like the absolute cheapest one of those that you can get. So if you really want to do that, I would transfer all the other parts, but I would go and order yourself a board. Just do it the right way. Don't try to reuse this. They're just so dang cheap now. But you can. I mean, if you just maybe. I guess it depends on the way that power plug is configured. Typically on this Dell systems that I see this weird square power plug, usually they give me those errors. So, but when we go to pull this out, let's see what we got going on here. We've got something weird up. Oh, you gotta. Huh. Interesting. So we have to figure out. Oh, okay. It's just a little bit wedged in there. Okay, so it just comes out. You could put a different manufacturer board in this. I don't, again, see a good reason to do that. if you're going to go this far, just go on Craigslist and buy yourself a cheap case, cheap custom case, and order a board on eBay, and you're probably into it if you do it right. Like $40. I mean, $50 maybe. But so let's put this all back together now. So, and you saw how quick that was, and I had not planned this. That was the actual process of me figuring out how to take this apart. So it really was that easy. So let's put our screws all back in. And it's even, it is standard screw mounts for a micro ATX board. So this would screw into another case if you really so desired. Okay, so let's do, oh yeah, they used, that was a bad idea of them, they used foam tape attached cable brackets. That's not a good idea because that, as you can see, that tape eventually came off and that didn't work anymore. So, okay, so let's do this first. Let's put our Wi-Fi card back in. See if I can figure out how to do that. Okay, there we go. It just slides on that little piece of plastic. And the screw drops in. Dang it. So that is a little finicky, a little more so than I was expecting. So that just popped off. Let's see here. It works. It's just really fragile. It's not going to break, it looks like. It's just the way it just kind of sits there. Okay, so screw that in. Let's actually do these first. Boom. They are color coded again, so each of them goes to its own proper color. Be very careful not to bend any of the connectors on the 3.0 style front panels because they will probably break. My experience with 3.0 front panel connectors is that if you bend a pin, they might have the ability to be bent back once, maybe. But that's sometimes pushing it. Okay, so we've got that back in. So will we have all the parts out? Let's take a look at... So this is a fairly standard size EVGA 750. Looks like it's a EVGA NEX 750B. It looks like... okay, so the way they have this set up, it's not like a custom normal case. So, and unlike a custom normal case, it looks like it doesn't have the ability to mount the power supply in either orientation. So do be aware your power supply is going to probably be a little bit starved for air if you do something like this. It will, there's enough space down there, it'll probably still work. It's not optimal, but it will probably still work, especially if you're not really pushing the power supply to the edge. But it does appear to only be able to screw in with the fan facing downwards. So just be aware of that. If you can verify the orientation and get one that's with the fan up here, but with the same screw orientation. But the thing is, usually this is the standard orientation, and for whatever reason, for all of this fancy doodads, they didn't think it would be a good idea to put a... I mean, I guess there's... Okay, so there's some metal holes. Okay, there is some ventilation. I take that back. There is some ventilation there. It's not as bad as I thought. So it does have that, and it can take air. Dang it, it can take air from... Let me show you in a second. It can take air... So the way it sits is with that much space there and there. So there's some airflow. Again, it's just a little less than ideal is all. So let's actually leave this like this. So we'll put the Dell power supply back in. I'm not planning on replacing it for this particular setup. When I go to resell this system, it's just going to be as Dell configured it. I'm probably going to try to get this to somebody for super cheap, probably in the couple $100 price range, maybe a couple $150, something like that. $250, maybe $3, depending on my research on what it's actually worth. You've got your standard screws, screwing the power supply back in. So then we reconnect our fan. See that? Connector there. There is a very good chance that a lot of these connectors must be connected for the machine to actually power on. It's pretty common for Dells to be configured where it has some sort of detection ability for unplugged cables. Sometimes that's useful, sometimes it's not. Okay, so plug that in there. Plug our front panel audio in up here. I am probably going to do some slightly more extensive cable management on this. Even though it doesn't have a clear side panel, I don't like dirty cable management, so it's going to get that. Let's see, does that stay? That one's still reasonably well attached. I may do zip ties instead, though. Okay, so yeah, so this needs, this definitely doesn't have the space or the length to plug in without this. And even if it did, it'd be like super stretched. So, put that together. We run it up in the corner here. What do we got? Oh, more lights. I wouldn't be shocked if Dell has it set up where it'll give you an error message if the lights aren't plugged in. As stupid as that would be, I do not put it past Dell. But for stuff like that, I mean, the fact that a machine this modern has a removable power supply that isn't some weird proprietary format, and then a removable board that doesn't have a weird proprietary format power plug or some other stuff, this is like pretty good. This is what Gamers Nexus should have ordered when they did these kind of videos. This is actually not that bad. It's actually pretty good. It's probably one of the more modular systems I have seen anytime recently, so I got to give Dell a little bit of credit for this build. Camera here. Dang it. Pull this a little bit further over. Okay. See if we can go a little bit further. Straight down. Yeah, let's see here. Do that. We're going to miss the power supply a little bit, but that's okay. We can see what we want to see. Okay, so what do we have here? That is... Okay, so that goes to that. That is so dumb the way they did that. I'm not thrilled by that, but whatever. Okay, so this will go down here. Actually, no, yeah, we don't need to do cable management. This is not a cable management how-to video, and that's not what you're here to see. So let's take a look at video card. So this is this is what I would consider the common upgrade for a system like this. This is an EVGA GTX 1080. I believe this is an FTW2. So it's a little bit larger than the standard 1080, but it's not that big. So, and it will fit. Again, I would absolutely... Oh, yeah, it wouldn't even... It probably... I don't think you can. Yeah, the bracket sits like that much lower. So this won't work with the bracket. And again, as I said, that bracket, I am almost positive that is there for shipping purposes, not for actual functional purposes, really, once you get the system home. I mean, it does help, but the only reason... It only helps if you have a big card like this 1080 in there. It's not going to help if you've got a little lightweight something like that RX 580, and that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. So you've got plenty of space, and actually that's solid. That's not going anywhere. That does not need an anti-sag bracket. There's no reason for anti-sag on this. So then, if this had 2x8, we would do this. So a little word of caution: do not get a either single or dual. Let's see this. Do not get a single or dual SATA port to 6-pin, and then use a dual 6 to go to. Well, the right way to do it, if you had proper wattage, would be a dual 6. Or actually, no, for a single 6-pin, you'd get away with it. But the problem is, this wire, even if the wattage was overall here on the power supply, this wire, this gauge, is nothing. This is intended to run SATA devices. This does not have the flexibility in the way that you would get with a standard... I'm really tight on the camera here. There we go. This does not have the gauge of like a Corsair or Thermaltake or something like that, like a 700 plus EVGA like I was just showing you. It's not there. If you want to put a dual 8-pin card in, do get a new power supply. You need to get a new power supply if that's what you want to do. At the very least, you don't even need a ton more wattage than this original Dell. I would recommend, they're so cheap now, I would look at a 600 watt, like a 600 watt EVGA really should suffice for a video card like this. I would not recommend putting more video card than this in. There's just no reason to. This 1700 chip, I mean, I can say for an almost fact that this 1080 is going to run better on, say, like a 9900K, even though this card is so much older than the 9900K, but still, this is going to run faster. Or even if you put it with like a newer 12th gen, you'd probably be surprised at how much performance this card would give you. But with this build, yeah, something like a 1080. Or if you want to go AMD, something like a 6700 XT or like a 6600, something like that. I really would steer away. I mean, don't try to put like a 3080 or like a 2080 Ti or something like that in here. It's just a waste of a card and a waste of your money, unless you get it for free, more or less, $100 or less. These 1080s though, you can get one of these for, I don't know, probably $100 if you look in the right place now. So I would stick with that. So I think that's everything we can go over. This is actually a lot more in depth. I didn't used to take the boards out, but people kept asking me for that, so I did it with this one. So I hope you guys find this interesting and informative, and thanks for watching the video.